Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Ruby and today I'm going to be talking about art block. By the way, just in case you're wondering, all the supplies I use in this video will be listed in the description below. So, art block. If you don't already know what it is, to put it in the simplest terms, it's basically when you're unable to create something due to lack of motivation and inspiration. But I definitely feel like it goes deeper than that because there's so many factors that can cause that inability to create, like being too hard on yourself, fearing criticism, comparing yourself to other artists, or it can even be something physical like overworking yourself and not getting enough rest. Personally, I decided to make this video because I've been feeling blocked creatively myself. Except I have the inspiration, like I have so many ideas, but the execution was killing me. I felt like every time I drew something, it was so ugly and not worthy to share. Like everything you're seeing now just felt so ugly to me, and I hated it. It felt like I woke up one day and my brain just forgot how to draw, which is ironic because not too long ago I worked on some portraits that I was really proud of. Art block was slowly affecting my confidence and it quickly affected my motivation as well. I wanted to create, but nothing was coming out right and it was so frustrating. One bad day is fine, but once it becomes days, weeks, or months, it feels like you'll never get out of it. It even makes you question whether you're good enough in the first place. Like, there's so many artists out there creating amazing work, and the amount of support they have validates that. Why should I bother anyway? I even thought maybe I should change my career choice. But in reality, everyone's journey is different. Just because you aren't where you want to be yet doesn't mean you'll never get there. Maybe the artist you admire had a lot of luck on their side, or maybe they were at the right place at the right time. Or maybe they practiced in the background for years and we just don't see that part. It doesn't mean you won't reach that goal, it just means it's not your time yet. Instead of comparing yourself to everyone else, compare yourself to yourself. Focus on your own journey, your own progress. Remember where you were a year ago, maybe 5 years ago? I bet you've improved and grown so much since then. And if for some reason you stopped creating in general because you're deep in art block, start over, and a year from now, see how far you've come. Art is a process, it's never supposed to end. I feel like if I ever retire and make all the money I need to live, I'll keep creating and painting because I love it. It's fun. It's the reason why I did it in the first place, because it's supposed to be fun. It's also helpful to remember that literally almost, if not every artist, experiences art block from time to time. So if you're like me and you start to develop imposter syndrome, just remember, if you have art block, you're definitely an artist. Luckily, there are so many ways to overcome art block. The most common and scariest way is to take a step back for a bit. Spend some time doing literally anything else. Go read a book, go for a walk, watch a movie, take yourself or someone on a date somewhere you've never been before. Most people find inspiration when they're not actively looking for it. It can be scary to take a step back because there's this pressure we put on ourselves to remain active on social media. We're pumping out art regularly so people don't forget about us and unfollow us when they've lost interest, but in reality, I doubt they notice. And if they do, it's usually the people who actually care about your creative journey and who resonate with your art. I'm sure they'll miss you and your work, but they're not going to abandon you because you need rest. They'll be thrilled when you can share your art again. You don't have to worry about those who unfollow anyway. It all comes back to remembering why you started creating in the first place, because it's fun, and being able to share your art to just even one person is a bonus. It's so funny because I remember growing up and it was like this collective experience to be embarrassed to show your art to anyone, and now we want to do that, and I get it. I admit that receiving validation does feel nice. And if it's 1,000,000, 100, or even one person, it doesn't change how great it feels. This pressure of trying to please everyone but yourself will only make things worse. I promise you're not letting anyone down. And if for some reason you just can't take a step back, like maybe you're under a contract or you're trying to make ends meet, there are other ways to help overcome art block. Another way is to experiment with something new. I feel like drawing from life is a good way to get the juices flowing, and it doesn't have to be a super complex thing. It can literally be like drawing an orange or something. You could also try redrawing something in your sketchbook and see how different it looks compared to your initial sketch, or you could even just change the color palette. Maybe try a new medium. If you normally work with graphite, try working with oil pastels, or even something as simple as trying different techniques. Maybe try challenging yourself. Draw the same object with your non-dominant hand over and over and see how long it takes for you to see some improvement. The excitement of trying or learning something new can generally spark that motivation you lack. The way I tried challenging myself was by practicing something I don't normally practice, which is portraits. I wanted to specifically do stylized portraits so I could play around with colors and textures and incorporate different supplies, but the only issue is that while I was working on them, I kept trying to make them perfect, and I went in with the intention to practice, but when they wouldn't 100% look like the reference, it made me feel like I was a literal fraud. Like, how could I not be a realism expert right now? When in reality, I've never been skilled enough to do realism. I've never practiced that, but in my little pea brain, I was getting so frustrated with myself for not being good enough. I wanted to share my process, but only if I was producing the best sketches of my life. Why would I share something I found really ugly, especially if I'm not enjoying myself while doing it? At some point, I was getting so discouraged to continue because I wasn't having fun anymore. I was putting so much pressure on myself and taking it so seriously. It's kind of funny how you can see the moment where I was overworking myself, and here you can see I was trying to give her blushy cheeks, but it didn't work out the way that I wanted, and I felt like I messed it all up. I'm pretty sure this is the moment I surrendered to the quote-unquote ugly art. If my art's gonna be ugly, then so be it. Maybe it just means my ability to perceive art is getting better, which is an improvement in itself. I think changing the narrative from my art is ugly to I'm improving in some way really helped flip that switch in my brain. At some point, my skills should catch up with practice, so let me just practice. After letting go of that pressure to make the best art to share, I started to have fun again, and you can see here my sketches are looser and I'm just going with the flow. It doesn't have to be perfect, it's a sketchbook. I was putting so much pressure on myself because I wanted to share my art, but I was afraid of the criticism I would receive. I mean, this is my child. I created it with my brain and hands. Why would you call my child ugly? I worked so hard on it, and if my child is ugly, that means I'm ugly. At the end of the day, I can't control what kind of criticism I receive if I choose to share my work. However, negative feedback can help me improve if it's being said from a good place. But I also have to remember that art is subjective and not everyone will enjoy my art. Practicing isn't linear. Sometimes you'll like your art and sometimes you won't like it. Not everything you create can be a masterpiece. So if the feedback resonates, take it, and if it doesn't, that's okay too. This is your journey, and if you're having fun, that's all that should matter. I was really enjoying myself here. The fear of someone ripping my sketch apart faded because I no longer had high expectations for myself. I was okay with my ugly art. Keep in mind that you're your own worst critic, so just because you hate your art doesn't mean it's necessarily bad or ugly. There could be someone out there who thinks it's the best artwork they've ever seen, and maybe the fact that you're letting go and having fun is the main reason for that. And I'm not saying you'll get over your creative block the moment you start engaging in any type of practice. It can take some time, and the amount of time varies from person to person. Just because I felt this slight turnaround in this moment, it wasn't permanent. I still felt that block after I stopped sketching for the day, but I felt hopeful that the block I was experiencing wasn't something I had to worry about long term, which can bring back that confidence. I started feeling really confident here. There was no plan, I just put the colors where it felt natural, and it came together in a way that I liked. I was really proud of myself because I wanted to give up once I messed up the blush on the second portrait, but I kept going and made something I actually liked for once. Art block can be a very rewarding learning experience, and every lesson is different. Personally, I think the lesson I learned was that being too hard on myself will eventually lead me to breaking down from pressure. The moment I started letting go and being okay with not everything being perfect was the moment I started to see some improvement. Now this was finally the moment. This was my magnum opus. I had so much confidence at this point, and it finally felt like my hands and brain were communicating with each other instead of ignoring each other. I really loved how the sketch came out. It all felt so natural, like it felt like I was in the background kind of like on autopilot, and my hands were doing all the work. It felt really refreshing. I feel like maybe it had a lot to do with the practice. I just wanted to enjoy what was happening in my brain in that moment without being too confident, and getting my hopes up too much because remember when I said art isn't linear? You'll see exactly why later. So, because I did go in with the intention of doing stylized portraits, I wanted this one to be a little bit more illustrative, except I didn't really have a plan. Usually my simpler illustrations look like this, but for some reason I was trying something new and I didn't know what I was doing. But like I said, art isn't linear. Just because my previous portrait was better, it didn't mean this one had the same fate. All I can say is that I'm okay with it. It kind of reminds me of Charlie and Lola. I don't know if you've ever watched that cartoon, but I'll just say it to make myself feel better. So, just to reiterate everything, if you're struggling with art block right now, just remember that with practice and most importantly, patience, eventually you will overcome it. In the meantime, try not to take yourself and your work so seriously. Enjoy yourself and remind yourself why you started creating in the first place. This was really a reminder for myself because it's easy to forget when you're in that creative rut. But if it helped you in any way, or if you just needed that reminder, I'm happy to help. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts and feel free to subscribe if you want to see my future videos. I hope to see you again soon. Bye!